Cutters, Degrassi, Unpopular Opinions. Welcome to my new series called Degrassi Unpopular Opinions. This is basically a series that I tell you some very unpopular opinions and I talk about them and all that. So anyway, one of the first unpopular opinion I have is basically the idea that one of the Reddit community had. Four Eyes Malone made a post almost a month ago that said, why was Paige so eager to date her teacher after her recent history with an older guy? And says that, and after she went through a terrible situation with the rape, and then Spinner went Spinner, and they broke up. How is she all of a sudden mentally okay to date an older guy? And then she was willing to risk his career and her reputation for basically nothing. So basically, put that out there. Somebody said, I think you're reading it wrong. She wasn't mentally okay, and her dating an older guy and willing to risk it all after that trauma she went through is a cry for help. People deal with trauma and sexual assault differently. Some people completely close themselves off from everyone and have no interest in being touched at all, not even in a platonic way. And some people go off the rails and make risky decisions in their sex life and relationships to try to regain the control they feel they've lost. So basically what this person is saying, not me of course, is that basically Paige dealt with her sexual assault, her trauma. It wasn't the sexual assault that did her in, it was the fact that Dean got off scot-free. I'll talk about that more later. Someone said she got into Matt or Mr. Orlander right after her and Spinner broke up, and Dean got off scot-free for raping her. Not to mention, the reason her and Spinner broke up was because he was clearly into another girl, aka Manny, which made her feel down on herself. Matt was the next guy she met, so it was realistic to throw herself into the relationship rather than dealing with the other things she was going through. And then someone else said, it's probably psychological, just like how Ashley always ruins her relationship before there's actually something wrong. And it's because of her dad being gay and how she was angry at him for leaving. It's also similar how Ellie constantly dated or went back to people that treated her like shit. She self-mutilated herself because she felt she had to or deserved it. So challenged her relationship. Actually, that's false because she self-mutilated herself because she couldn't deal with her mom's alcohol issues, and her dad being away in the army. Manny also had a problem with dating people that didn't care for her. If you notice, Manny always put a persona on with a significant other and was not forced to think highly of herself. But I had to do something about it. This unpopular opinion. I said to the guy, you've been reading my mind about the Paige situation. Why did she fall in love with her teacher and then decide to risk her future for the guy? Makes no sense. Maybe she was mentally off her game because season 4 was about her rapist getting off scot-free, her breakup with Spinner, and Rick having the audacity to come back to Degrassi. So basically, this opinion is... Now, I know it's probably like an unpopular opinion in the sense that, like Paige's relationship with Mr. O was terrible. But also, the unpopular opinion is that Paige was willing to ruin herself for this guy, and it just doesn't make sense. So logically, we gotta go back a way. Now, season 2, Paige met an older boy named Dean who was a soccer player for Bordeaux, a school that was close to Degrassi. So anyway, she ends up going to a party Dean throws, and then basically she gets sexually assaulted. She doesn't know how to handle it. She doesn't know how to tell people because she's worried about her reputation. Ashley then basically says that something about being raped and all that. And Ashley says, I know a lot more about you because I've read up about it. And I know some people have said that Ashley made the raping storyline about her. Well, Ashley was going through season 2 trying to redeem herself, but Paige basically wouldn't let Ashley hang out with them. I think in a way Ashley is mad at Paige because Paige's influence basically pushed all her friends away from Ashley, and Ashley had to go off, kind of like what Ellie was. So anyway, yeah, Paige does end up telling Miss Sauve about this thing and wants to know how to handle it. She does bump into Dean when Bardo plays Degrassi in basketball. And JT decides to take it upon himself to attack Dean for Paige. Spinner wants to attack Dean for Paige, but Paige basically tells him to shove off and basically tells Dean, I am coming for you. Nobody's going to stand in my way. I'm coming after you. Mark my words. So basically, Dean basically decides to make vamoose and all that. In fact, Paige does this kind of songwriting contest in season 2. She writes a powerful song about rape and all that, and with PMS, Pretty Mean Sisters. And basically, Dean leaves the cafe in a huff. Paige basically has got him. Paige basically is happy with herself and all that. And then season 4 comes in, and basically she is overjoyed at the fact that she's finally got her trial up and running. But she also thinks of her reputation about things, if at all. So basically she wants to cancel it. But Spinner tells her, you got so far into this. You can't go back. So basically Paige agrees and basically does her best at the trial. Basically Dean's lawyer tries everything in her power to basically get Paige off her game. Paige doesn't bat an eye. Paige's testimony is great. Unfortunately, one tiny problem. Most cases end in lack of evidence. And because of lack of evidence, Dean is let off the hook. A lot of people basically say that, what if did Paige talk to Miss Sylvain enough? Was that admissible in court? My feeling is that maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. I know that Paige wanted to do all these stuff. But then basically, it just didn't happen. So basically, Paige is now upset. And Dean basically brags to everyone about it, saying that, I did it, but you can't do it to me because I'm all scot-free. Paige decides to crash her car. Well, I thought it was her car, but it was Spinner's car into Dean's car. Spinner gets arrested for that. But Paige decides to take the rap, and basically Paige finds Dean at the police station and basically says, sorry to ruin your fun, but I'm going to confess. That's what good people do when they do something bad. And we never see Dean again. So the best part about that, well, I know Paige lost her license, basically vowed to pay Spinner back every dollar for the damage to the car and all that, and was on probation. But basically, Paige did the right thing. And she got Dean back in a sense. So anyway, Paige, of course, having relationship troubles with Spinner. I mean, Paige and Spinner were a decent couple and all that. But unfortunately, Spinner had eyes for Manny at a car wash that the Spirit Squad threw. Of course, Paige couldn't be part of it because Paige had to work at the movie theater to pay Spinner back the money for his car. I mean, that's stupid how, Spinner took advantage of Paige being out of the event so that he could see Manny. It doesn't make sense. And Paige is basically working to pay off Spinner and all that. I wouldn't be surprised if Paige had basically told Spinner, I'm withholding your money for that because of what you were doing to Manny, helping Manny out. Of course, Paige and Manny had that big fight at the end of season 4. But anyway, and a lot of people say, oh, well, Paige wasn't really affected by the Rick situation. How did that lead to Mr. O? It actually did, because basically Paige couldn't really trust a guy, in a sense. Now, I know that Rick came back just before Paige and Spinner broke up. But, I mean, seeing how Rick basically put Terry in a coma, forced Terry out of Degrassi, and he's back with no repercussions and all that. Of course, basically, the police and school board didn't have any charges on him. So basically, they couldn't do a thing, and obviously Raj couldn't do a thing about it. I did a video on how Rick got off scot-free and all that. You should check that out in the playlist. But as is, Paige couldn't. I know Rick was trying to apologize in a sense, but Paige was still upset over how Terry was put in a coma and all that. So basically, Paige wanted Emma to help her get Rick out. And it works in a sense. However, Emma basically realizes that Paige's way of the Orange Ribbon campaign is basically, it's not about the cause. It's just basically beating up on Rick. It's just an excuse to beat up on Rick, and it's justified with the domestic violence thing. Emma stops the violence. Paige and her clique decide to cut Emma out of their lives forever. And basically, Emma's on a lonely island with Rick, Toby, and Heather Sinclair as friends. More on that later. But of course, yeah. So of course she picks up with Spinner, and then she bumps into an older guy at her yoga class, who was teaching her yoga class, and is shocked to find out that he is a student teacher at the school. But she decides to pursue it. And the way the people were saying that basically Paige was willing to throw away her future because of her mental state. That is actually an opinion that I think a lot of people don't realize. When you look at the facts with Paige, is that, she went through a lot in season 4. Like, her storylines were underrated. Well, underrated because season 4 was known as Rick's shooting timeline, which basically changed Degrassi forever. Rick died from his own gun, accidentally by Sean. Emma went through a phase that she couldn't handle being the old Emma, and was trying to be the old Emma for everyone's sake. She ends up catching an STD from Jay. Toby doesn't know how to feel because his geeky friend is gone, and with JT basically shunning Toby for Danny, or Liberty's brother, if you will. Toby felt alone and all that, although JT did apologize for everything. And they got back together and everything. Jamie, of course, being in the wheelchair, coming back, thankfully enough. Hazel upset because her boyfriend got shot. Spinner because, Spinner inadvertently caused Jimmy to be shot and all that. Jay being a piece of shit. Alex getting away with it, even though Alex should have just confessed to everything. I think if she just confessed, then she wouldn't have worried about herself. And of course, the main thing for me is that it changed administrators. Radich out, Hatzelackles in, because Radich's inattentiveness to Rick. And also, I think that the aftermath was just the cherry on the sundae. But anyhow, so, yeah. Going back to Paige and Mr. O. Paige wants to be with Mr. O. Unfortunately, their relationship hits a snag when Simpson actually ends up finding out about them at a park. So basically, he sees something. Paige, of course, doesn't do well in her Banting interview. She's high and all that. So anyway, Paige is exposed by Manny. Might be because of spite, but it's also because, Manny could have been concerned about Paige. And she's not doing well in the Spirit Squad. I think that was what the spite would have been. So anyway, Paige is brought to the office by Hatzelackles, and then there's a lawyer for Mr. Olander, and then there's Mr. Simpson. Paige basically decides that she needs to change media immersion courses. Doesn't want to be with Mr. O. Unfortunately, every grade 11 credit counts towards college. And I know Simpson didn't want Paige to fail. Paige wants to transfer schools. Unfortunately, it's in May, and basically, Paige might lose her whole entire year. Paige says this is no big deal and all that. And it's weird seeing that Paige is willing to throw her life away for this guy. Terrible. The Olander's lawyer did say that students have feelings for their teachers. You just went too far. We can help. But Mr. Olander basically decides to step up, saying that the relationship was illegal and it was his choosing, not Paige's. So basically, he's canned as a student teacher. But he tells Paige that they can actually go out because now he's not a teacher, so it's not illegal. And Paige likes that. Unfortunately, he heads to the Yukon, and basically she comes back a changed man, and Paige is left high and dry and all that. I often wonder if season 4 was basically the season that tipped Paige from being out with guys to maybe pursuing a relationship with a girl, aka Alex. Now, I'm not saying, I know it's an unpopular opinion within itself, because, it's like, was season 4 responsible for why Paige would turn to girls instead of guys? I mean, I wouldn't blame her and all that. All the trauma she had with guys. She had Dean, who got off scot-free with a rape. Rick, who basically had the audacity to come back to Degrassi. She had Spinner, who cheated on her with Manny, and Mr. Olander, in which the relationship was public, and basically she had troubles. She did try to date a couple of guys after Alex. Well, in particular Griffin, who had AIDS and all that, but she was AIDS negative. She didn't test positive for HIV or AIDS, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, Paige being with Mr. O, that was kind of stupid in a sense. I mean, like, why would you be with a teacher? She should have just broken off with him after she found out he was a teacher. It's like, oh my gosh, it's illegal. But as people said, that she was not in the right mindset. And that's fair. I mean, she was willing to throw away things just for a teacher. Just doesn't make sense. So anyway, that's all I've got for this unpopular opinion video. There'll be a few more coming up in the coming weeks.